Though the shores of Eternia have been ravaged by the evils of Skeletor, we are joining you, our faithful listeners, for episode 171 of Project Geekology, covering Masters of the Universe. But I can't do it alone. I'm Rich, and I'm joined, of course, by
Skeletor, and you won't stop me this week, Anthony. And yes, we are covering Masters of the Universe this week, the 2026 movie that just dropped. It is on Amazon Prime. Apparently it was an Amazon movie, so yeah. But yeah, before we do that, we always start each episode with what we have been up to. Rich, what have you been up to? Oh, yeah. And then it is, once again, just the Rich and I podcast, which is all good. We'll hold it down until Dakota and then eventually Jen comes back. But yes, Rich, what have you been up to?
let's see. Well, I'm mired in the unfortunate circumstance of the Mets having a 9-game homestand. So I've been attending a lot of baseball games, but I got to do something cool as of recording today, Wednesday. I got to, I have like a bunch of fan points that I get from answering. There's like little quizzes online and going to games and buying stuff. So I cash those in to go and sit in the suite today. So we got like all you can eat ballpark fare. Nothing fancy. It was really nice. Got to watch the game from a different perspective. I've also been looking at the news. I'm very excited about Wolverine. I was actually just talking to my son about it. And he's never said this. He goes, "Yeah, that game looks violent. I don't think I can play that." And I didn't get the impression that he was saying like I don't have permission. Like he plays Ghost of Tsushima, we don't like so it's not like he's not playing games where he's killing people, but he's seen enough of the Wolverine footage to say I'm not. I won't lie to you. I did see that you can like turn down the gore level. You can basically turn blood, like there's a slider system, I think. And then there's also a part where I think it blurs out like extreme violence. You can reduce the limb damage so like limbs won't go flying off. So I'm probably going to play it at a more subdued level. Like I love Wolverine, but I don't think I need to see viscera all over the screen at every moment. I even get uncomfortable, I'll be honest with you, when I'm playing like Red Dead and Charlie walked in. For a while, I would like pause it and I wouldn't let him see the shootouts and stuff. If I was riding my horse, I didn't care. But so I'm very much looking forward to that game. The Bethesda I think also came out about news about Elder Scrolls 6 and that they're working on that and that there's going to be remakes of Fallout 4 and Fallout New Vegas. They're going to do a remake of. So I'm really excited about that. I mean, look, that's one of my favorite Fallout games. It made me hate mountains, but I still love that game. And I definitely want to see it. I hope it, turns out better than Oblivion because I got the Oblivion remaster and I don't know. It's fine, but it wasn't the same. So I hope that the New Vegas one fares better. But so that's kind of what I've been up to. What have you been up to, Ant?
Well, on the Fallout stuff, I'm actually surprised that they haven't done anything with Fallout 3. Fallout 3, I think, was the game that brought everybody into the Fallout fold, and that was my first Fallout game. But I didn't get it until it was like a couple of years after it came out, and there was a Game of the Year edition. So I had gotten it, and then it came with all the DLC. But yeah, that was when I got into Fallout. The other ones were like a kind of isometric, top down.
Yeah.
So they were a lot different than the Fallout games that we have now. But
I think they picked New Vegas because it might more easily tie to the show. They have the Khazar, and they have more of that like you have Vegas out, so they're really in the TV show playing into the New Vegas game. And I think that maybe that's a reason why they made the decision.
Well, I hope that they have Obsidian on board with that.
They do.
Because
They do.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's because like that technically isn't their game. It's not Bethesda's game. It's Obsidian's. They made it. But yeah, as far as what I have been up to, I have been, obviously watching the topic of the week. I have been hopping between Marvel Rivals, World of Warcraft, and then a game called Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. They just dropped some big DLC called Ragnarok, and I've been enjoying that. That's a pretty good game. Oh, we got Spider-Man coming up, man. We got a brand new day coming up. No more. He has left home now. There's no Homecoming, no Far From Home, or what was it?
No Way Home.
Yeah, No Way Home. That's what it was. Far From Home was the Italy one.
Yeah. England? Was it England?
I thought it was Italy because of because I remember the canals.
You might be right. Yeah.
But yeah, so we got that new Spider-Man. I'd like to go and see that this weekend. I know that we've got some guest appearances that are going to be on that, so I'm pretty stoked with that.
Hey man, if you're I know we've already got our idea for next week. I'm most certainly going to see that movie. We could talk about that one maybe too.
Well, how about we table the other one, and if I do end up watching it,
got you.
Then let's just cover that next week. And
then maybe I'll give some in that. Yeah, you know what? So here's faithful listeners. Here's what we're reworking right in front of you. So we're hoping to switch to Spider-Man next week, and then maybe we can get the other 50% back because they'll have seen the Odyssey as well. I believe that they got rescheduled for this weekend. So it'll actually give them time to watch it, and maybe we can have them hop on.
Oh, okay. I mean, if they decide to, that'd be cool. But yeah, we can definitely go and see. I'll most likely try to go and see it on Sunday, and then we can cover that for the week. Dude, let me tell you, it's just when it comes to covering a topic, watching it in the movie theater is kind of the best for me because I know that you get to, relax when you're at home, but you and I both know how bad distractions are, and it's easy to get sidetracked when you're at home. So I can kind of with the movie, I'll be able to lock in and watch it. Kind of like with the Odyssey, I was able to do the same with the Odyssey. The Odyssey would definitely be a tougher movie to watch at home just because you're going to be pausing, getting up, doing this, checking your phone real quick during the slower scenes.
All right, since my wife's not around, I'll openly admit that I may have seen it already because I wanted to make sure that I had an idea. She's not really a horror fan, and I had heard that there were elements of horror to it a little bit, so I wanted to kind of preview it because we're going to see it with Charlie too, and sometimes if scenes is a little bit too much or whatever, I might just be like, hey kid, heads up, this one's going to get weird.
I would say the only part that I was unsettled was during the Cyclops. That was it. They really made the Cyclops look unsettling.
But I will say that and I won't say more than Cersei, but the Cersei scene, I think I'm going to have to warn my wife about.
Oh yeah. It's that scene, and I'm wondering if they got that scene. Remember that scene in Pinocchio where the kids get turned into pigs? I wonder if they got that idea from the Odyssey.
Oh, 100%. I would say.
Because obviously the Odyssey came out first.
100%.
Homer.
And I'm going to see it with my mother.
Man. But I know that Dakota was looking for a particular scene with the Cyclops, and he will be let down as far as that. Actually, I actually forgot about that.
Did you see that he tweeted about it? It was almost like the news came out. I literally saw 3 other tweets talking about how that scene had changed, right? And then I see his tweet. He just goes, "It's my favorite. I hope nothing's different," right? And I was like, wait a minute. Is he?
See, I forgot that. So what we're talking about, and then this is spoilers for the Odyssey. So if you want to skip forward.
I mean, listen. If you're getting spoiled by the Odyssey,
I guess, you're right. Yeah, it's the Odyssey. When did Homer drop this piece of fiction?
BC, man. I don't know.
Yeah, many years ago. they still believed in Zeus when this dropped. But yeah, like the when Odysseus tricked the Cyclops with
Yeah.
nobody, I'm nobody. And I think that was what, like, after, because he does blind the Cyclops, right? I think that was after that, right? That
Hmm.
he's like, "Oh, I'm nobody." So yeah, I completely forgot about that. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot that was a thing." But yeah, I mean, yeah, they do make some changes. They make some character changes to Odysseus, but I mean, we'll talk a bit more in depth of that when we actually do cover the Odyssey and like the changes that they do make. I'm gonna have to refresh myself a little bit. I mean, I'm not gonna read through the Odyssey, but I need to refresh myself on the story because there's definitely some changes. But I mean, yeah, aside from some gaming, watching Masters of the Universe, and potentially us watching Spider-Man this weekend, I don't have too much craziness going on. I don't know if you have anything else going on or if you want to
Yeah,
storm
let's get to Castle
Grayskull.
Grayskull. I'm very excited to talk about the movie and the topic altogether.
Yeah, Rich. I feel like, so I know Masters of the Universe originally was a toy line that they came out with the cartoon to kind of like expand the lore and obviously like make the toy line even, I mean, the toy line was popular, but like I know that the show really like blew the toy line up also. What is your relationship with Masters of the Universe growing up?
My first memory that I can remember is I used to wake up early, I guess, on Saturdays, and my parents were sleeping. They were young, so I mean, let's say if I'm 4, my mom's like 23 or something like that. So I'm 4 or 5, and I wake up and I want to watch Masters Universe, and they told me I could go to the living room and watch it as long as I had the TV low. And I remember watching it with my cat, and when Prince Adam turned into He-Man and there was a flash of light on the screen, the cat got scared and jumped off. That's my earliest memory. I loved that was I don't want to say it's my first toy, but it's probably one of my first like real obsessions was Master Universe. I remember having most of the toys. I had the Castle Grayskull itself. I definitely had the sword. My sister was into She-Ra and she had her own She-Ra stuff. And my wife and I, she's actually slightly older than me, but one of the things that we both share is she really loved She-Ra, and so now I didn't really watch a lot of the updated stuff that they've come out with. There's been different things. The live action movie from I think 1987, was something that so many kids were excited about, and then like He-Man, that movie was not the vibe of the cartoon or the toys, So it was the closest thing we actually got to probably like the He-Man that we wanted to see live action was there was like this touring on ice show that like they'd have like He-Man on ice, Masters of the Universe on ice. And I remember my parents bringing me to that. And I think I had a good time doing that because it was more campy and stuff. Looking back on
Yeah.
it, I love the Masters of the Universe movie, like as I got older. But I know, my dad kind of told me that I was a little kid and I was excited to see it. And then I was like, what was that about?
It's funny that you actually bring up that older movie because Dolph Lundgren was actually in this new movie. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So they gave a nod to like that old movie.
Even there's a cat, one of the villains has long white hair. And that villain was never, and he's got like a craggly face. He's gray. He was never in the show. They actually put him in this movie because he was a creation from the last movie. So he was a character that they made for that movie, and they actually ported him over to this one, which I thought was pretty cool. He doesn't have any lines or anything, but you see him like walking around at some point.
Yeah, man. So Masters of the Universe was definitely just before my time. I didn't grow up with the toy line. I did catch reruns of it when I was a kid. Like the 90s came out, did have their own cartoons, but I feel like a lot of these networks were still trying to figure out things, especially like Cartoon Network. So there was a lot of like reruns, right? From like the 60s, 70s, 80s caught a lot of Scooby-Doo from back in the day, right? The 60s, right? Caught a lot of Johnny Quest, caught a lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff, right? Space Ghost, right? And then like the weird Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I felt like a lot of these cartoons like came out on Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon had their own like slot of stuff, and Disney was still like they had their own stuff, but like Cartoon Network was showing a lot of Hanna-Barbera, and then eventually I think like mid to late 90s they started coming out with their own stuff, and then through the 2000s. But there was a lot of like reruns I remember like as a kid, and part of those reruns were Masters of the Universe. I didn't watch it all the time, but I do remember watching bits and pieces of it. So it wasn't as huge for me growing up, but it was still relevant that like I knew what it was, and like I understood, like, you know, I might have not have known all the characters, but like I could recognize like, oh, this is from, I didn't call it Masters of the Universe, like I call it He-Man. You know, like I didn't ever, I think most people just called it He-Man, right? So it's, and then yeah, eventually like find out, like I was like, okay, you know, his name is like years ago, but I was like, I remember like at one point I was like, why is he called He-Man when his name is Adam? And then I found out it was like, it was a superhero name. It's like literally like Superman, right? But He-Man to like protect his family and whatnot. But so that's kind of like what my experience was. It was kind of like after the fact, kind of residual reruns, that kind of stuff.
And to be honest with you, I mean, look, I liked it, right? Obviously. I watched it as a kid. I think we can admit here that like that series does not have replayability. It's not like you know, even it reminds me, it's the same time period, but Thundercats. I love Thundercats. And when I like that came on, like something, I was like, oh yeah. I put it on and I said, oh no, look, I can't watch more than 20 minutes of this dribble. You know, it was.
You could literally put them in the same universe and it would be believable.
Yeah.
Like if you threw Thundercats into the same universe as Masters of the Universe, I'd be like, yeah, they belong. They belong together. They feel the same.
Oh, but I think the movie kind of strikes an interesting balance, like what you were saying about He-Man, you know, and like the convention of the names, because they were so terrible. And then, you know, as the movie goes on, you get to find out that these are the names that Prince Adam gave him when he was a little kid. So they were like names based on like what his limited view of the world, essentially. So that's why they're so bad. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. You know, like what a great way to explain why He-Man is such a corny name, and everything else about the corniness of the naming conventions by just attributing it to his age.
You know, like the names are definitely perfect names for children, right? Ram Man and Fisto and Mechaneck, like those are definitely nicknames from a children's cartoon. So you enjoy the movie. What are your thoughts on some of the changes with Prince Adam? They obviously change him. He gets transported to Earth. He's a bit of at least, you know, from, you know, in the beginning, kind of throughout the movie, he's not much like the cartoon. Like he's not like really all that brawny. Like he wants to, you know, he's like this HR guy and he wants to talk things out. He tries to talk things out with Skeletor at some point. And, you know, like, what are your thoughts of that? Because I mean, like, to me, I feel like that's a huge, huge change to the character.
So I have a buddy who's probably the biggest Masters Universe fan that I know, and he absolutely hated it. And I think that's probably part of the reason. I guess I don't feel as strongly about the franchise. Like I liked the franchise growing up, you know, as a little kid. I mean, 5, 6, whatever. You know, but then I moved on to like the Turtles and things like that. And He-Man was kind of a thing of the past. He wasn't on TV anymore. The toys weren't interesting anymore. So it was over. It was, you know, I kind of left that behind. Whereas like something with like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, I might lose my mind if you interpret it in a way that I don't like. I thought this was interesting. I thought it was able to. The cartoon show was very, in a way, campy. You know, the 1987 movie was like serious camp. Like, you know, it took itself a little bit more seriously.
It was Samp, man.
But I think like to update it for 2026 was kind of smart. You know, like you needed to, because Prince Adam and He-Man, if you watch the shows, it's quite often boring. You know, he always did the right thing. He never really had any very many problems. Like he got through things. So you have to build something. And I think what balances Adam so well also is Skeletor just being evil for the sake of being evil, right? Like, I actually thought that was super, super refreshing. That the villain is like, you know, why are you doing this? What is the deep-seated reason you're doing this? And he's like, yeah, I'm evil. You know, like it's just the best.
I feel like the one thing that I will say is that I feel like they gave Skeletor a little bit too much base. I mean, you remember how Skeletor was like it would be tough to watch a 2-hour movie with his voice being like that. But I feel like they could have found a middle ground where it was a little bit easier on the ears. You know, like they were going for the camp and kind of the silliness of Skeletor, but I feel like it would have like landed a little bit differently had they gave Skeletor, because like Skeletor, thinking back, he's like this evil villain, but he sounds so just wily, like dang you, He-Man, you know, and like raising his fist. So, like I said, it would be tough to hear that for like 2 hours, but if they found a middle ground where his voice wasn't as bassy, and I saw that it was Jared Leto that was playing Skeletor, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I was kind of like, I said, why are we casting this guy? Like, you know, once upon a time, like he acted in some good stuff, but I feel like ever since Suicide Squad, like I have increasingly wanted to see him less and less in movies. Like Tron was another one where I'm like, bro, why do we have this guy in here? Tron wasn't good.
I'm not sure if you know this, but some recent news has come out, and I don't think you're going to need to worry about seeing Jared Leto movies anymore.
I saw that too. We won't dive too deep into that. No. But if you're interested, there's some stuff that came out about Jared Leto. You can go look that up if you are interested. But it's just, I think like after seeing that like Joker and Suicide Squad back in 2016, I was just like, this guy is just picking up all the roles that he should not be in. But I mean, you know, I guess he did what he could with Skeletor, but I think that, you know, I don't know. Like, I guess like I was, from my memory of Skeletor, this one was a bit different. And He-Man.
But this is the Skeletor from,
Suicide
Squad. I think this is Skeletor from Robot Chicken, man. I think that Robot Chicken played a role in the way that Skeletor was portrayed, right? Because if you almost think about it, other than like old heads who grew up with He-Man, right? Now, like if one of my students watches it, like they may have seen those like, you know, Robot Chicken memes with Skeletor doing weird stuff. And I wonder if like that persona of Skeletor on Robot Chicken played a factor in how kind of campy, like, because that whole montage scene where he's like Bill Lumbergh at some point, like from Office Space, when Skeletor's in his head, right? There's that one sequence where Skeletor gets in his head and like there's different scenarios in like He-Man's in Adam's life, and one of them is like he's in the office and like Skeletor is standing there like Bill Lumbergh in Office Space, going like, "Well, I'm gonna need you to come in," like sitting in his coffee. They were really ratcheting it up there, and I really wonder if that Robot Chicken like craziness of Skeletor was kind of like weaved into this for a newer generation to be like, oh, it's that weird, you know, meme that I've seen before.
And I feel like Skeletor already to begin with is a robot. Like, he was perfect to be put into Robot Chicken just because of like how his character is. His character is like
Well,
super
yeah.
campy, in the cartoon. But yeah, there's definitely changes with with the two main characters. What were your thoughts on like some of the other ensemble, like Tila, Duncan, Roboto, which was voiced by Kristen Wiig?
Oh, is that who it
Yeah,
was?
Roboto. Yeah.
I thought Idris Elba was fantastic. I thought he was really good for the role, I don't. I'm not often that guy, but a lot of times people get like irritated with like characters being cast that are like different races or whatever. But I think that he continues to get a role like like Heimdall or like this role, right? And he does so well, that I didn't see any kind of, and I'm happy about this. I didn't see any kind of kickback about that. Like there's been controversial castings before, and I thought that this was really well done. I liked Tila a lot. I loved Cringe Cat. Wait, Cringer, right?
Oh, Cringer, Battle Cat.
Yeah, I thought they did that so well. I understand why they didn't have my little wizard guy. He does get an appearance at the very end of the movie. I can't remember his name now. He's like a little floating wizard with the cap. CGI wise, I understand why they didn't include him in the movie, but like all my favorites were there, and I thought I even like at the end, like where he like sneaks off to switch into He-Man, and they're all like, yeah, man, like they're all standing around like, you dummy, we all know. And I don't know, I guess you could have done something really serious, and a lot more epic in terms of like world ending, but I think you would have needed more time to develop that. The benefit that the 1987 movie had was that it was in the cultural zeitgeist. People, kids had seen the show recently. This show has not been in the zeitgeist. And I think what's happening with the release is so interesting because I'm not going to lie to you. I saw that it was coming out in theaters and I went, that's probably going to be on TV real soon. And I'm not going to go and I'm going to enjoy it from my house.
And you weren't lying. It was like immediately Amazon Prime.
And the minute it came out, the day it came out, I was like, ooh. And I put it on right away and it went, gosh darn. I said other things, but I don't want to curse. Gosh darn. This is a good movie. Like I enjoyed this, like this was a fun summer movie that I would have gone and like, enjoyed that I had some popcorn and I got to see, it's not too long. I don't think, I think it like the length is actually pretty good. So it's got a lot of things working for it and it just kind of stinks. I wonder what happens in terms of like seeing more from this universe. Do we see a She-Ra? They hinted at that, but do we see it because of the terrible performance in the box office?
Right.
And I hope that Amazon, I feel like Amazon kind of messed up a little bit. Also, I don't know. I know that this, movies go to streaming really quickly now, but if it feels like some movies don't even get a chance, like they're out for a week and like if they don't perform right away, I think He-Man was out of theaters in like 2.5 weeks. I think I couldn't find it around me like 3 weeks after release.
Yeah, I remember when like there was a time where it felt like movies were in the theater for like 2-3 months, right? The better performing ones were obviously long, right? Like around 3 months, but I felt like even the underperforming ones were at least like a month and a half, right? Where it does feel like 3 weeks later, you don't see it anywhere. And, something that you did say that I wanted to kind of bring up is that you said that Masters of the Universe hasn't been around in a while, right? Like, back in 2018, we did get She-Ra, but we haven't really had a proper Masters of the Universe in a long time. Do you think that had they tried to bring it back through the show and then maybe try to like do the toy line, that this might have performed a little bit better in the box office? Do you think that
100%?
And then because like, I mean, if you look at the ratings, it actually, the movie did some modest rating, right? Like with critics, it did okay, and it did a bit better with audience, but nobody really showed up for it because it like you said, it didn't do well in the box office. It flopped in the box office. So I'm wondering if a show and maybe a toy line launched alongside it would have brought in more of an audience. Do you think that had they done that, if they geared the movie a little bit more towards a younger audience while respecting the older audience, if we would have gotten more? Because it wasn't really aimed for kids. It was aimed for an older audience, but it also looked like they were trying to pull in a new audience at the same time. So it's a little tough.
I would have done it like this. I would have, at one of the cons, New York or San Diego, released a toy line with Comic-Con exclusives, and then a short cartoon series, maybe Young Adam on Earth, you know, like, and then him having like flashbacks to like things that happened on Eternia to lead into the movie almost. You could have done a little something, especially with the money Amazon has. You know, like, all it would have taken was a 12-episode series. 12 episodes, all right? Give us a little bit of something, a little taste, give the kids a little bit of toys, get the collectors back on board, and then you release the movie, right? And now it's Adam returning to Eternia after we've seen him on Earth, and then you could get season 2 to take over. And now it's Adam on Eternia, you know, back in Eternia, like trying to, you know, Skeletor's going to come back, you know, and then you have other battles he fights. I just think they kind of,
it becomes, I don't know, like a new Masters of the Universe. So something that like blew my mind, and I'm wondering if they could, if Amazon, or is Amazon the owners of the rights to Masters of the Universe? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm assuming now they are.
But so growing up, Scooby-Doo was around, right? Like I grew up watching some of the, you know, a lot of the old Scooby-Doo, and then bam, we get hit with one called What's New Scooby-Doo. It's for a newer audience, but it's still like the same Scooby-Doo, but it's like they updated it while respecting the like OG like Scooby-Doo, but then they update the intro with like a super catchy Simple Plan like song that they still play at their shows. And it's just like, I wonder if Masters of the Universe could pull something like that off, because Scooby-Doo brought in like a whole new crowd of, like, you don't know the amount of millennials that, like, if I ask them, like, did you watch What's New Scooby-Doo? They'd be like, oh yeah, I love that show. They could do.
Wasn't there also a pup named, right? Like they did a couple of reboots. I know that Masters tried to do a couple of the reboots, but I think
She-Ra did decent. It got 5 seasons.
Yeah, I think some of the problem is simply that kids don't consume cartoons the same way anymore, man.
You're right.
You know, and so like, you know, my son doesn't give a flip about most Disney things, and it just so happens that we hadn't, when he, you know, Disney Plus was coming out, right? But basically when he was his youngest, it was Netflix. I don't think Disney Plus existed yet. So basically,
yeah, Netflix.
We watched that stuff.
Disney Plus was what, like 2019, so it's fairly new.
Yeah, so Charlie was born in I'm gonna get this wrong. I'm gonna be fried for it. 2014, right? So we had Netflix, and you know there weren't commercials for another show while he was watching a show. You know, it was almost like he would binge something, and then he'd either watch it again, or maybe by accident something would come up, or honestly, Lauren and I would get so sick of what he had been watching forever and ever, we'd be like, why don't we try this? So that was so different than the way we watch it. So I think that, like, if they were gonna push it, they needed to push it really. They need to do a better effort of promoting it, you know, and making it a bigger thing, because it's not something that kids are just gonna fall upon by mistake. You can't rely on that model.
Yeah, that's how a lot of us consumed TV back in the day, right? Like a lot of TV shows that I grew up on were ones that I stumbled upon. I will never forget the setup of TV, like of cable back in the day. Disney, Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon were right next to each other. And like back then, like this is when we actually used the channels on an actual TV, right? Like, and not like, not scrolling through a guide on, DirecTV or whatever. And the cable had Disney on channel 61, Cartoon Network on channel 60, and Nickelodeon on channel 59. And I would flip between all three of those. And I would catch a show I'd like, or I would catch something that looked interesting, and then I would watch it that way. And then I felt like a lot of the stuff that I enjoyed as a kid was stuff that either I got, from my parents, stuff that I stumbled onto on my own, and word of mouth from peers, right? And the word of mouth nowadays is literally, everybody, a couple of years ago was what, Skibbity, right? So I mean, you're right. Like, the consumption of media is not the same. I don't know how Masters of the Universe would have panned out back in the day if it wasn't a toy line first. Because, I mean, Transformers, it was literally the same, right? Toy line first, then cartoon.
Yeah. But see, that's the other thing, though. I mean, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna get off my old man thing, right? But you don't go to the toy store, all right?
Toys R Us, gone.
Right?
KB Toys, gone. FAL Schwartz, gone. Is there even a dedicated toy store anymore?
I mean, like, over here, we happen to have a town toy store, right? Literally, we happen to have that. No, but now you have to go into, like, Walmart or whatever.
And it's like everything, right? It has a toy section.
And it's the trash.
But, like, us growing up, there's literal entire stores that were dedicated to toys. So Toys R Us,
stumble
KB
upon
Toys.
Stuff.
Yeah, dude. Like, it's...
You would just see it by mistake. I mean, I remember, like, I would go, and then it was also a reward for having to, like, go shopping with my mom. Now Charlie would just be like, I want this. And then Lauren would go on Amazon and search for it. Like, he was into these dino trucks, and they were like these die-cast, like, little metal and plastic dino trucks, like dinosaur trucks. Dude, these things cost like $60 or 80. Like, one of them was like $90 that she bought on eBay because they were so coveted, That's what it's like now. So I think He-Man kind of suffered from that a little bit. He's just not around in a way to get that new audience in. And I don't think they did enough to kind of draw. I didn't really hear tons about it other than, like, I know, respectfully, I operate in nerd circles, so...
Do kids even play with toys anymore, by the way?
No, like, look, I probably pushed my son to video games earlier than maybe some other kids would have been playing.
I started early, too. My dad got me on when I was, like, 2 years old, but, like, I was playing NES and Super Nintendo back then. But I still play with toys, I will say.
He played with toys until so he's 11 now. I would say that by 8.5, 9, he was already starting to, like, still want them, still like them, once in a while play with them, but it just stopped altogether. Like, it just started being like he wanted to collect them. He has he still has toys now, but he has, like, action, figures with, like, multiple heads and
technically I still collect them too, but, like, they're like figures. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not the action figures. They're, like, just one pose. That's all.
Yeah. So he's still got the ones that have multiple, they're actual figures, but he just kind of takes them out and, like, looks at them, and then he'll draw them and stuff. So it is different. Kids are not playing with toys as much. So, I think they just kind of dropped the ball a little bit on the promotion of this, because I think it's doing really well now. I think if you release it in theaters now, you might get a bunch of people be like, hey, I want to go see that now. I know it was good on Amazon.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it definitely was reviewed, like, decently, right? Like, normally movies like that would be getting, like, super panned by critics. And, like, I mean, for the most part, I mean, it's sitting at a 67, which is, I mean, it was still critically panned, but not, like, it's still, like, it's not certified fresh, quote unquote, in Rotten Tomatoes, but, still, like, the audience enjoyed it a lot more. And I know that I say stuff like this. I honestly don't really care about what, like, critics say. Like it when I see like something like
It's
seriously
Masters
like
of Universe, man. It's He-Man. Like, it's not supposed to be high art. It's not Shakespeare. I don't expect to go, I'm not
does
expecting to see Shakespeare.
does it have to be art for you to enjoy it?
It just has to be the Masters of the Universe, man. Like, it's what I saw when I was 5 years old. I'm 44 now. I got some chuckles. I had a good time. Like I was fun to recognize some of the characters. I thought that visually it's fantastic. It looks really great. I love the way Eternia looks and all like degraded and everything after Skeletor's reign. I think it reminds me a little bit of Thor. Like, he gives me Thor vibes in that he's like, yeah, I'm a big deal. That like when he's like at the beginning of the movie, the way he's on that date with a girl, and he like first date, and he's like, I'm gonna tell you where I'm from. And it did give me a lot of kind of Thor vibes. Like, I'm not gonna really assimilate here. I still stand out a little bit, and and that's gonna have to make it goofy. They have to make it goofy. Look, he's so OP, right? Like, he's Superman levels of strong that you just probably need to do something to make him a little goofier. Because if not, then he's just this like super serious. Dolph Lundgren played the character well, but I don't think he did the character justice. I think that I can't remember this actor's name, but he did a really good job of giving layers to Adam and made him different from He-Man.
Right, like he definitely looked like a little bit. The He-Man in the cartoon like does look younger, but this guy looks just a little bit younger than that. But
Well, you know why he didn't look younger in the cartoon, right? They essentially just got cheap and like felt it was easier to not have to draw him as younger. So they kind of just made him the same age, essentially. So like they cheaped out on it to begin with.
yeah.
So we should have had a more Peter Parker-esque Prince Adam with the big change of He-Man. But the change, if you even watch the original cartoon, the change isn't that drastic because they were really just cheaping down on the animation.
It was literally like it was the same guy except they changed costumes and he had the sword, right? But so just a little bit about the story. It starts with a young Prince Adam. He's kind of wimpy, gets pushed around. Skeletor attacks his home, and he gets sent to Earth, which is because I don't remember, is Earth like an actual place in the cartoon? I don't remember.
That I don't remember.
I don't. Yeah,
I think that's new to this.
So like they made Earth canon in the Masters of the Universe, but yeah, where he spends 10 years there, right? Which would make was it 10 years or 15? I think 15.
I think it was 10 years. Yeah, because it seemed like he was like 7, and
yeah. Okay, so
I think.
And he's like about in his like mid-20s in this, but yeah, like so he's kind of like living his life, drawing all these people from back home, right, and giving them names like Ram Man. Duncan was Duncan, Mechanic, Fisto, Warrior Goddess, Tila, and
his mom, by the way, was a astronaut from Earth whose spacecraft crash landed on Eternia.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense because she did like fling him back and was like, "Oh, I'm sending you to my home." So yeah, no, that makes sense. And yeah, so he spends time there, and he's essentially like he's a fish out of water, right? Like he's living his life, and he's trying to tell everybody about like okay, this is what happened on Eternia. Here are these people. Everybody thinks he's crazy. He has a roommate who is kind of, I guess, humors him, right? And yeah, the whole date dynamic was funny, where he's like, he tells her like about the whole story up until the point where he gets like flung to Earth. But yeah, he loses the sword of power in this, when he gets like sent to Earth, because Skeletor was after it. And so like he's pretty much spending all this time looking for the sword. That's why he spends all this time on Earth. And eventually he finds the sword. It's like this giant Conan the Barbarian statue is holding it. And when he takes it, it kind of sends out a signal, and Tila tracks him down. And then I think, what was it, like Beastman or whatever, tracks him down too. She brings him back, back to Eternia. A bunch of stuff goes down. You think Duncan dies earlier in the movie, but then, he ends up being alive. He assembles a team of, like, you got Tila, Duncan, Roboto, Battle Cat, and eventually they bring on, like, the quote unquote resistance, who is like in hiding because Skeletor has taken over Eternia. And I mean, it's pretty much that, like, you get He-Man, he battles to take back Eternia, but he tries to do it talking, and talking doesn't help, so he has to throw down. But it's pretty much that. Like, there's that, like, interesting middle section. I was actually surprised that the Earth section was as short as it was. Like, I thought, like, he was going to be there a little bit longer, but no, I mean, I felt like, what, like 10, 15 minutes he was there? The sequence, and then he's back in the Eternia.
I think the problem is that if you want to keep the tone of this movie light, right, he doesn't have like a Hagrid type with him here, right? So it's not that he didn't know it and he had to be exposed. So he knows it. And this kid, all right, must have had to gone through like foster parents who just kept dumping him off because he refused. Did they try to put him on meds? Right? Like, it could get dark, like the psychiatrist going like, Adam, we know this isn't true. And he's like, you don't understand. I'm really from Eternia. So I think it would have been like a sadder movie if you had to watch Adam for 10 years believe this, that everyone around him thought was a lie and like a hallucination.
And I think it seemed like he probably went to college too.
Yeah, like that's right. Like, so we have to kind of not see that, because I think that it would break my brain too much for like a guy to be sitting in college and be like, yeah, no, I'm definitely from this, other planet. Like, because like after a while, you'd have to imagine you start to question yourself, right? Like, maybe this isn't real, man. It's been a while, maybe I'm not really from there.
Yeah,
so
yeah. No,
I think that they had to keep the goofy tone. They had to leave that out.
I mean, they were knocking on that door where he could have been going crazy, because, like, he's telling all these people, and like he tells his roommate that, when he went on a date, that he had told the girl everything, and he's like, you probably should have left that out. Oh, something that I mentioned before we started recording is so there's like a really like popular kind of like spoof video that I think it was created back in 2005, but like was uploaded to YouTube and became viral in like 2010. But it's Prince Adam singing "What's Going On" by 4 9 Blondes, but like a different version. And they literally like they don't play that version, but they play like the actual like 4 9 Blondes song in the movie, because Adam gets arrested because he takes that sword it was in a store. Dude, when he was like fighting like the sword and like ran out, dude, the like girl, as he was walking, I was like, are you single? It's like, this man just did something crazy and you're asking him if he's single.
That guy, I mean, I love the way he had to wrestle the sword away from the statue, whatever, was great too. I think the actor did exactly what was written for him. I think he did a very good job. You can't, if anyone wanted to kind of like say, I don't like this portrayal of Adam, that would have to go back to the writers, because the way this guy pulled it off, I think he pulled it off well. I thought he was cheesy enough and camp, and kind of dumb enough, but then at the end of the day, essentially brave and loyal enough, right? And I think he kind of demonstrates those qualities, even in his insanity of continuing to talk about it. He demonstrates that he's never lost faith that he's going to go back there and do good, So there are really good qualities to him too. So I know it's a little bit more of a not sarcastic, but it doesn't paint Adam as kind of as heroic as he could be. But I think that's almost what makes the movie really good.
And what do you think about the the final throwdown between we didn't even talk about like, was it Skeletor has like his like right hand woman Evil-Lyn. I love that like her name
Oh
is like
yeah,
Evil-Lyn.
she's so good. I can't remember the actress's name, but she was also
Is it
in the
Alison Brie?
Brie. Yeah, she was in it was like the Glow, the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling Netflix show, and she was fantastic in
She was
that.
in Community also.
Yeah, she's really great. I mean, and she really I think did well with the role. The blonde hair is off putting. Just the hairstyle was kind of weird, but I thought that she did like her balance of like being an evil minion, but then also kind of like you have to kind of be ridiculous when you're around Skeletor. So I thought that she was spot on in that role.
Yeah, yeah. What'd you think about the last showdown? Everybody throwing down and fighting.
Oh, it was great. I mean, and it was so predictable that like Adam would discover that the power was always within him. It was never the sword. And that he kind of had to believe in himself. So I like all that stuff. I think it was the fight sequences I thought were, sometimes I don't like when the choreography has so much action that you can't really discern what's going on. Here, I thought it had nice like set pieces where it was kind of easy to follow, while still kind of showing the chaos that was going on, but not so overwhelming that you can't see standout moments. So I thought that was really well done.
And then, yeah, you mentioned during one of the end credit scenes, they show the like little wizard guy. And so like, they threw him in that way.
Yeah, I mean, that guy was the man. His toy was so cool. I think like he had a piece of plastic that you would like put into his back or something, and then you wind it out, and he would like spin on the floor in circles or something like that. Yeah, no, so it was nice to see him. See what is? Hold on. What is? Because I know that in the 1987 movie they created a character named Gwildor who was like not from the cartoon. This guy, he's Orko. It is nice to see my man Orko up there.
And then the like last end credit, they tease She-Ra, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe, we might get another movie, hopefully. What do you think about She-Ra? Because I feel like She-Ra at some point had become more popular than He-Man.
Look, I will have to admit myself to be woefully informed on She-Ra because when I was a young boy and my sister wanted to be She-Ra, I was always like, well, He-Man's better than She-Ra. And I probably only begrudgingly watched the shows because I was a little jerk. And so I can't tell you that I know tons about her. So I'm actually really excited for the movie because, then I'll get to find out a lot more about her in a really cool medium.
Yeah. So hopefully we do get that. Last thoughts on Masters of the Universe 2026.
I would say if you grew up on it, watch it. It's fun. I mean, you can't, I don't think there's no way if you grew up on it and you watch it, you'd be like, man, that was a waste of my time. If, you're a diehard, I think that the changes might be something that are a little difficult to deal with. But I think overall it's really fun. If you've never seen He-Man before, this to me very much reminds me of the Dungeons and Dragons movie we watched.
It also kind of gave me a little bit, there were some vibes of it that kind of gave me John Carter vibes, like that movie.
Yeah. I think that if you've never seen the universe, I think it's really fun. I think you should dive in. It's definitely fun, and it's on Amazon. So if you have Prime or whatever, like I do, just go ahead and watch it. It's definitely worth your time. And I think that you might yelling at the end, "I have the power,"
By the power of Grayskull. But yes, no, I agree. It's not an Oscar level movie. It's not going to be the best movie that you see all year, but it's definitely going to be a really fun movie. I did have a good time watching it. It did have like some of those minor gripes with some of the character changes, but aside from that, it was an interesting take on Masters of the Universe, and it definitely is fun. And I do agree. At least watch it once, and make the decision for yourself. But thank you for joining us here for episode 171 of Project Geekology. Next week, we did do a little bit of a schedule change, or may do a little bit of a schedule change. Most likely next week we'll be covering Spider-Man Brand New Day. And then after that, we'll be covering the Odyssey and potentially Mortal Kombat from the 90s after that. So keep an ear out for that. I mean, this is the first time that we've been really just like scheduling this far out. But yes, keep an ear out for all of those. Keep an eye out for the post. Our socials will be in the show notes. So go down there and follow us there. Did we really have anything juicy in this movie? I'm trying to think if we had anything juicy in this movie.
I'd say when Cringer was really Battle Cat, he's kind of like got this, he's like dripping, like saliva, because he's bloodthirsty. And that kind of reminded me of a little bit of juice, but like what else has juice?
I don't know what else has juice, but I know what I want to have juice. I want you all to go to your podcast applications and give us a 5-star juicy review. And if it allows you to leave a comment, leave a 5-star juicy comment there too. And we will enjoy that. That helps us move up in the algorithm. Share with your friends, share with your family. And we will catch you all next week by the power of Grayskull.
The Wolverine.